Welcome to the Traders Clinic, your regular shot in the arm of trader insights, philosophy and knowledge, brought to you by two professional money managers, Ali Crooks and Charlie Burton.
In each episode, we answer your burning trading questions and cover all things from the world of trading.
And in this episode, we are going to cover...
Well, this one we've been looking forward to, I think, haven't we? This one is one we've wanted to do for a little while. So we're going to kick things straight off. I'm going to go straight in with the title, which is What the Gurus Do to Suck You In.
Trader Gurus. Okay, so where do we want to start on this one?
Well, mate, you go. I think I could just leave you with this. I could just wind you up and let you go.
Go for an hour on this one.
But
I think that for me, I was at a trader show just recently, and I attend these trader shows. You were there as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Both of us have been to these sort of independent trader shows over the years. I don't want to mention names. There's loads of them. You've got Americans come over and they do these big stock and investment shows and trading shows, and they are, let's just make this clear, the shows themselves are good for the attendees to go to, but there's stuff that people can learn, but you have to be very wary of some of the agendas that people have there. And there's a lot of trader gurus there. And that's what got me thinking, because you think, oh my God, I know that person. I know that person. You and I have been around 20 odd years, and we've seen some of these people or the things they say, and yet people get sucked in. So, for example, I heard of a lady there who had a stand, who was trying to get people to join her whatever organized group, and saying that she'd just made 1,000% in the last 6 weeks. Now, before anyone says, oh yes, but you can do that, Charlie and Ali. Yeah, all right. Yes, technically you could do 1,000%. Someone could do that in the space of 6 weeks. And if you carry on trading with that kind, because the only way you're going to make 1,000% in 6 weeks is with a lot of gearing, and you will lose it. You will give it back. So yeah, you could have a sweet run, make a load if you're highly geared, but you will then, as soon as you have a not so sweet run, give that back. It's BS. Just, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So that was her. And then you and I were walking through a room, and there must have been, what, 100, 150 people in this room.
Yeah.
And we saw this guy on the stage who you and I know. I say no, but we know of him. And we know people who have been fleeced by him over, 15, 20 years. And of course, he's lecturing on the cryptos or whatever he was talking about. It seemed to be a few things. And we just heard him as we were walking through the back of this room talking about how one of his clients turned a £1,500 or something like that into 40-odd thousand pounds. And of course, the audience are like, putty in his hands. And it's the oldest trick in the book. Oh, one of my customers, they did this and this. So the subconscious selling that's going on, because people then think, I want to be a customer of him because I want to turn £1,000 into, So that got me thinking about these trader gurus. And the shame is, and we're going to go through a lot of examples of trader gurus here, but the real shame is that people still believe it.
Yeah. I think I said this to you before we started filming. I was like, it's like it's just the same thing that you saw 15 years ago at the show. Even 20 years ago, that slide with Beryl from wherever who's turned this into this, and she's had no experience, and she's, never seen a chart before, but look, you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
And you said something really interesting. It's like, yeah, but the audience has changed. So it's not the same people going that were going 20 years ago, but it's the same mindset. And
Get rich quick.
Is get rich quick. And I think one of the interesting things, and I was talking to a few people about this, is one of the first people up at the show had a room full because he was essentially saying, and I'm paraphrasing, no experience, turn £1 into a gazillion.
Right.
Whole place is full. And then the second speaker was a psychologist, and he's very well respected in the industry. He's got some great material out there.
Yeah.
And as soon as he came on, half the room left.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So half the room left. Literally, like, you've got a room of 300 people, and then so the one person that should be listening to, half the people have gone. So that just reaffirms that the reason why these gurus are still able to do what they do, nothing has changed in 20 years, is because the psychology, despite what we have in the market, all these different methodologies, all these different things that people can do, the psychology of the human, especially the newer trader coming into the into the arena hasn't changed.
Wow. One thing to add there is that let's just be very, very clear. It's not about the last 10 or 20 years. The same thing was going on in the 1920s with the penny stocks. And if anyone's read Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, it's the same thing. They had the bucket shops, and people are suckers. So they used to fall for the penny share deals from the bucket shops in the 1920s through the roaring 20s of the stock market. Huge euphoria that we had there. So it's only going into the late 1920s. It was the same thing. So humans still fall for the stuff. Look at cryptocurrencies over recent years. The amount of coins.
Yes.
People can put their own words. Look when Doge came out, and coins that have been released by all sorts of minor celebrities and stuff, which have all just gone to nothing. It's just complete nonsense, and people are losing life savings in those sorts of things. But let's bring this back then to trader gurus and some of the other tricks that they get up to fool people into following them or whatever.
Okay. I'm going to go with one that may seem a little bit more subtle. Maybe it may not. Other people listening to this might have seen this, but this idea of it's not you, it's the market. It's not you, it's the brokers. It's not you, it's your strategy. So this subtle message that is being put out in their marketing, which is you're being stop hunted. It's not your fault. It's the brokers out to get you. So what they're doing is hooking that potential customer in, because the customer's going, oh, see, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't the fact that my mindset's really bad and I can't stick to my rules. And they're preying, I think, on this idea that, well, it's not your fault. So come with me and I'll show you the system that is different. And ironically, because I've done a little bit of digging on this, is somebody was saying, oh, it's because you're putting your stops in the wrong place.
Yes.
And then they're teaching you a fairly standard strategy where your stop would be going potentially, arguably, in the place where if the guys were hunting down your stops and the brokers and everyone was looking for your stops, they'd be hunting them there anyway. So I think it's this sort of hook that I see a lot, and it's different in different times. But I think people need to be aware that if they're implying that it's there's nothing wrong with you haven't got to do any work, it's just the system that you've had. Probably not the case, because every trader that I've ever worked with or known, and the same for you, there's an element of work that they have to do on themselves, regardless of what system they're actually trading.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And along that line, that's one. And the other one was, you were mentioning before we went on air here, is the high win rate stuff to try and lure you in. So that's another one. So they lure you in with, like you've just said, with, oh, okay, well, that's not how the banks do it, and the banks trade this way and all that nonsense, or whatever. And so again, what like you're saying is, the implication is well, yeah, if you just had your stop is in the wrong place. The reason you're getting stopped out is because it's in the wrong place, and there's a holy grail place to put your stop. Yeah, and it's that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of different ways that they market, and we're going to go through all of these and try and lure you in. Liquidity zones and all of that stuff, which again, people fall for all of this sort of stuff as if it's some sort of revolutionary new way to trade.
Yeah,
there isn't a revolutionary new way to trade. You trade price, whatever it might be, but people fall for this sort of stuff again. High win rates.
So this is interesting. So it falls in this line of either blanket statements. Technical analysis is rubbish. Follow this. High win rate. It's everything that's put out there that's absolute. So the thing with high win rates is, the obvious thing it's doing is it's preying on your natural tendency as a trader to want to be right. And if you can have a high win rate, that makes things easy again. Then you haven't got to work on your own mindset. So yeah, anyone that's saying, well, I mean, let's take your trading or my trading. Let's pick I don't know, May to September of 3 years ago, and I can show you a 95% win rate. But if we take the whole year, the win rate's going to drop.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting that what these people are doing is outright lying and they haven't had that win rate, but maybe it's only for a month. Maybe it's only,
let's suggest it
as this being a little bit kinder.
Yeah.
But yeah, because again, I can't say whether or not that person has for sure, but anybody that is pushing a 95% win rate, or I saw on one website, we can we can eliminate all of your losing trades. Literally in black and white on the top of their website. So anyone that is offering you something that makes this completely easy and completely pain-free is probably the wrong person to go with. So win rates is the big one. And the knock-on effect of this is I've worked with a trader who he's actually very, very good technically, but he's in that mindset of, I'm going to put all my technicals together to create this strategy. And he knows logically he can't have an 80% win rate, but he's behaving as if he's aspiring to that, because it's been so ingrained with all the things that he's seen that if he creates this technical solution, this technical strategy, and masters it, he's going to be able to win 8 trades out of 10, 80 trades out of 100. And I don't know any trader that's operating successfully and consistently over a 10-year period that's operating at an 80% win rate.
Or 90.
Not even close.
And yet you hear it all of the time. And so it's a shame to hear that sort of stuff. Again, it comes back down to what we've already said, that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And a 95% win rate is, or even 80% is highly unlikely to have long-term sustainability. Or it could be that it's profitable, but actually it's no more profitable. It's actually the profit of it is very low, because in order to have a 90% win rate, you're going to have an inverted risk reward. So therefore, when the losers do come along, they'll wipe out a lot of the winners. So you can be successful and profitable, but it's not gonna. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't have a 90% win rate and a 1 to 3 risk reward. And people are like, why not? Why?
No,
because the longer you have to hold on to a trade for, then the higher the probability that it will just fizzle out and roll back over. So in order to get to a 1 to 3 risk reward with a big stop loss, that means you're going to be having to hold on for quite some time. And some will go there, but some won't. And so you just can't have 1 to 3 risk reward and a high win rate. People have to learn that for themselves, because they still want to believe this stuff. And that's the funny thing. We're going through a load of stuff here. People's belief systems are so ingrained and so in-ground and strong that they want to believe that they can have a 90% win rate or a 90% win rate with a 1 to 3 risk reward, or 1 to 2 even. They believe that they're going to have that it doesn't really matter what we say. And it's a real shame, actually. But I always come back to, and we're going to move on to some more Trader Guru stuff. We don't come across anyone, from speaking to our brokers that we have relationships with, who have those sorts of win rates over a sustained period. Anyone can have it over a month or potentially 2 months, whatever. But over the long term and are making thousands of percents every year. No one. So anyone who comes across this stuff on social media, please don't believe it. It is nonsense, So, and then you get people saying they're money managers as well. This is the new one, Trader Guru wise, but they're not regulated. And they're saying, oh yes, I've got a track record and all this. You're like, you've got no regulation. And it's, so again, if no one's got any regulation, then and they're making those sorts of claims that they're money managers, well, they're probably doing it illegally offshore. So that's how, I say illegally, it's not illegal offshore, but they're doing it offshore in order to do it, in which case they can manifest some 3-year track record. Let's see how they get on over the next 3 years for you, sir. So, and what makes me angry is year after year, I come across people who say, oh, I invested £5,000 with this so-called guru and he ended up losing it all. Yeah, it's because they're not regulated. There's only 3, I think, that I know of, authorized money managers here in the UK who are also trader gurus, if you want to call them that. And 2 of them are sat in this room right now. And there's one other, and that's Alpesh Patel. So that's all I know of who are authorized indirectly via the FCA here in the UK. So the rest are not. And I don't think you have to be authorized in order to be a trading educator, but because I didn't want to be, and you didn't want to be for a long time, so I don't want to have to do all of that. I don't want to manage money. I'm happy trading my own money.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they'll use that as an argument, and I get that, because I didn't used to have to do it. But there comes a point when you and I have seen all that nonsense that we see out there, whether it's online or at a trading show. And this is no fault of the organisers of the trading shows at all, because they don't know any different of who these people are. But in order to distinguish ourselves, I felt forced to go down that route, and then you did the same. To say, right, we're going to manage money professionally, because that does put us in a different position to this stuff that's out there. So, do you want to add anything?
Well, I think it's also for the person out there wanting to learn, is a lot of what's happening, and this leads nicely into the whole MT4 thing. Is that we have to be audited independently. So
yes,
everything that we do has to be looked at independently.
Yes.
So the other challenge that a lot of people are having, and there was this big thing of look at my FX book, and this is something you've talked about in the past, where if he's got a track record on my FX book, then he must know what he's doing. But actually, that can all be completely manipulated.
Well, the thing is with my FX book is you feed usually an MT4 or MT5 account into it, so you produce. And again, anyone who shows you an MT4 results, or whether it's an MT4 statement or one of those which have been loaded in, it's nothing against my FX book. So it's nothing here against my FX book. A lot of people use it for their own trading, and it's a great tool. But for the people, the gurus who are trying to sell you a service or a product, then be very careful if they're using that to say, look at my historical live performance, because you can hack into it. You can literally hack into MT4 or on my FX book, and change the numbers around. So, and if anyone wants to learn how to hack, you can learn that. Just Google hacking your MT4 accounts, and you'll find plenty of videos on YouTube showing you exactly how to do it. So, exactly. So don't believe anyone like that. Like you said, so you cannot believe anyone who just shows you that type of statement. Like you've just said, ours are independently authorized by our regulators. So we can't manipulate or anything like that. So anyway, that's a bane of our lives. Well, it's not a bane of our lives. It's only a bane of our lives because we get told these stories by these individuals who have then gone and done something. Usually they've gone invested some money with them, or maybe they've just gone on a course or service or whatever, and then felt a bit hard done by the end of it, because they, for whatever, maybe they've overpaid or whatever, so maybe they'll be at green behind the ears when they sold this dream. And maybe the dream, and definitely those dreams are, a little bit overinflated. So, but okay, should we go through some others?
Well, yes. I think the other one is I've seen this in the States. So I've had people come to me that have experienced this, and you've seen this with other people as well, which is the slightly more subtle one, which is Telegram signal groups. So I'll talk a little bit about the idea behind it, and then you can talk about the methodology. I think that would be a good way to wrap this up. So one of the things that happens with these Telegram groups is that you'll come in and you'll see the word free signals. So some guru's giving you his free signals, and they're making a big point about the fact that they don't charge. So this is I don't charge because I don't need to, and everything else. So they're doing this. So you join their Telegram group. Invariably, you've got to be able to access the signals, especially if they are robotic signals, or they're using something where you're linking accounts. Is you have to use a certain broker to do it.
Right.
And the challenge there is that the chances are that guru has got an agreement with that broker that they are getting a cut of the spread, the rollover charge, whatever it is, but they are in cahoots with that broker. So if they've got 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people following those signals, placing those trades, then as long as they can keep those clients for a minimum amount of time, and all they've got to do is see how many people are coming in. So if there's X amount of people coming in per week, as long as they keep those clients for a month, 2 months, it doesn't actually matter how that client performs, because the marketing is bringing the new people in, because they're making enough in transactions with the broker, because they'll be splitting the spread or doing something with that broker.
Yeah.
So the big, I'm doing this for free because I'm so great, well, actually be careful, because they may well be having an agreement with that broker that gives them a cut of 20 trades a day or whatever. Is invariably these aren't 2 trades a month position trades that they're calling. It's 5 or 6 day trades a day that's happening, because obviously the volume means that they're going to make more money.
Yeah, they get the kickback in commission from the broker, and they'll be making probably tens of thousands of pounds a month in kickbacks from brokers.
And often what happens is also the client is actually got a worse deal, because what's happened is the spread is inflated for the client. Because so the client is often then getting a worse deal, which means then the guru and the broker can split a bigger spread. So just by adding on one point to the spread that the client has to deal with across 1,000 clients means they're going to make a lot more.
And
money.
I think, and ask yourself, if the guru's trading on some broker which is not in the UK, so it's not FCA, it's not ESMA, it's not in the EU, and it's in some other jurisdiction, you have to ask yourself, why is this superstar trader using a broker like that and not trading directly into the futures markets or with a top tier broker, or at least a broker based out of London or whatever. But yeah, so some of the things that they do, touching on what you've said, as far as they're either using maybe a robot generating signals, and there's nothing wrong with any of that sort of stuff. But there's no free lunch either. So if someone's saying, like you've just said, oh, this is free, just follow my signals. So maybe they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. Maybe they are, but I suspect not. And because at the end of the day, everyone around the world needs to make money, and for doing whatever they do, whether you are providing a service of whatever the service is. If you are a massage therapist, you wouldn't do a massage for nothing. You've treated someone, there should be an exchange, some sort of payment for it. And you can't say I'm doing it for the good of my heart, because you wouldn't be able to pay your bills, sort of thing. Now, with some of these things, I've heard of one of these services, so to speak, on Telegram. So because Telegram is, again, nothing wrong with Telegram as a messaging service, but because it's a messaging service, the trades are like scalps, really quite quick, a lot of these trades. So it's I say very clever, but it's subtle. So the trader has got all these people following, puts, long, whatever, at 9:01 a.m. sort of thing, long euro dollar, whatever, or S&P, let's say. And of course, but the S&P's already moved up a couple of ticks by the time they put that in. But of course, they can use the thing and say, there's a slight delay, in that. So they'll then put that in. So by the time the followers follow, they're like, oh, right, he's already in. Oh, and he's already into profit. And then, and his stop loss is already at break even, And so by the time they get in, they follow. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, stopped out break even. They haven't got out of break even because they got in later anyway. Just those, seconds of delays. They still think that this trader is some sort of amazing trader, but he's just using the latency factor of using that. So if he really wanted to, or some of these people really wanted to do it live over a microphone, so that people can hear it as it's happening rather than as you're doing it. Now, I get that, of course, the argument could be, well, yeah, I've got to put my trades on first before I can then type it into, so there is a latency effect. But they could also just be sitting there waiting for that market to go up and not actually placing a single trade. And then just, type it onto there and say, oh yeah, I'm already up into a bit of profit and stuff. So there's that sort of stuff that goes on. Like you said, I think you just have to be very wary and careful of believing. And some of these people don't insist on you open up a brokerage account as well. So people say, oh yeah, but they don't insist on that. No, they don't. But what happens is, if you've got 1,000 followers, and you're sitting there and supposedly making all this money on XYZ brokerage, which you've got a relationship with, that brokerage might be giving you a so-called live account, which is actually a demo account, and they can change it, because we've known that sort of thing going on in the past, to make it look like a live account. And so brokers can make up the amount of monies that are in a so-called live account as well. And so the implication is that people think, well, I want to follow. They're not insisting that I use this broker, but I want to follow that. So maybe, I don't know, 20, 30, maybe 50% of those 1,000 people end up opening an account with that brokerage anyway. So again, the guru comes across as, no, you use whoever you want, but knowing full well that 50% of their followers are probably going to do that anyway. And, it's the subtle arts. You've got the real, like we said at the beginning of this show, you've got the very obvious ones. I made 1,000%. My client turned 1,000 into 40,000. To us are very obvious, but people still fall for it. And then you've got the slightly more subtle ones as well. And just be careful. It's not that some of these people haven't got something to offer. But you have to ask yourself, if you're learning from it, great. But if you're following these signals and losing money, just be a bit careful if you're just constantly losing money on it.
And be careful, I think, of feeling like you're so close. You're only, you're just a little bit away from success. And if you just catch that trade a little bit earlier. And I think also ask yourself, what if that so-called guru was not around tomorrow? Are you learning from them, or are you simply just following the buy and sell signals? Because then you're completely reliant on that person rather than actually building your own strategy and framework.
Well, that's true, yeah. And but yeah, it's a hard one. It's because you've got Telegram signal services, which loads of those sort of things out there, and they have their own ways of getting money from you, whether it's through commissions from a broker, or maybe they are charging. Some do, I don't know. But most probably don't. It's a free signals, but they're getting it through the back door. Then you've got the people who are charging thousands of pounds. So they get you in on something very cheap. And then, the next course is £1,500. Then it's £5,000. Then it's 10,000 for the da-da-da-da. And again, there's nothing wrong with having to pay to learn to do something. If you went to university, you would expect, there's a cost over the 3 or 4 years degree that you're doing. But so there's nothing wrong with that, but it's trying to ascertain whether that company is just a outright business to sell as much as they can, and whether the claims made by these trader gurus is exactly what I think. That's our point here.
Yeah,
the claims that are being made, we question, because like I said, we sort of know what goes on out there. And we know what sort of real results are. And yes, you can make good results in the market, but these gurus seem to just be making endless results. And I think when you're hearing of that sort of thing, and I know people want the dream, but it's just not quite like that. There are unicorn traders out there who make 200-300% a year every year, and I've done it for like 10 years, and it's audited and everything else. There are unicorn traders out there, but they are so few and far between. You're better off. But of course, then I'll say that, and then people are like, I'm going to be that unicorn. Well, you might be.
But they've got brains like Rain Man or something.
Yes,
they are very. It's almost a perfect storm of emotional balance, intellect, everything. And they are a needle in a haystack.
Most of them are ex-bankers anyway, and so you're right. They've got that. They've got the industry knowledge anyway. Plus, they've coupled that with, like you said, a ridiculous intellect that the average person just doesn't have. You or I included. So, why don't you lower your expectations of where you might be? Any individual out there, and just get consistent at that, and you can outperform the market. You can outperform the S&P 500. You can, as an individual trader, and see that as your goal rather than trying to make 500% every month or whatever. But some people still want to believe that stuff.
Exactly.
And on that note,
well, I think we'll wrap up that area up, but there is a question that we have had in. Now, it kind of links in a way, because this is, I think, something that has increased the whole guru and increased the greed level within the industry, which is, we've talked about before, prop firms. But we got a question in saying, what do you think is going to happen to prop firms next year? And for the benefit of people listening, we're sitting at the last quarter here of 2024. So what do you think is going to happen to prop firms going into 2025?
Well, the FCA are looking into them. So here in the UK now, so the general consensus is that they won't be operating, at least in their current form, at least in the UK, and most likely Europe as well. Within the next 2 years, things are going to change because the regulators hate them. It's a bit like the regulators hated when we had binary options and all that came out, and they got rid of all of that. And this will just prop firm trading. And people are like, well, why? Yeah, because it's a con. It's because it's in the nicest of senses. These prop firms are geared towards themselves. So fair enough, they're businesses as well, but people go into it with wide-eyed and not realizing that it's like going into the casino. It's massively stacked against you. So one thing that concerns me is these prop firms is if they get banned in the UK, or they will have to go regulated, and then they'll have to change their practices. What's going to happen to these trader gurus who are all out there recommending them, getting cash back? That's why you get all these trader gurus saying, I will help you pass your challenges, and all that. Well, yes, because they're getting all the money back.
Well, I've even seen one. I saw one last week where the guy said, I will pass the challenge for you. I mean, and wipe your ass and do everything else. And I was like, wow, interesting. So, we haven't got a crystal ball. We can't say for sure what's going to happen. But, we know that the regulators don't like. We're fortunate that we can speak to people at brokers, and they see the inside track of this.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's this. It's so much of it is fueled by greed, and so much of what we were talking about with regards to the gurus is the same. Is the new trader goes, well, hang on a minute, I've got $1,000 to trade with. I'm going to put it. This is my way out. And I think if this, as much as people may not want to hear it, this lowering of your expectations overall means it changes your perspective. And I think this is the problem: is people's perspective and their want and desire to make money quickly, which in some ways is in all of us. There's an element of that in all of us.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate we've been around the block a while, but people come in and they can see a prop firm as a way out. So there's a lot of fear. Well, what if they're not here next year? What am I going to do? Well, learn to do this properly.
Yeah, exactly.
And lower your expectations over the short term, so that you can build the skill and build up your compounding and do it like we had to.
Trader gurus, what are they going to do? They're going to disappear. No, what'll happen is they'll either get banned in the UK, but it won't stop them from operating overseas. So in lesser regulated jurisdictions. So that's what will happen. Yeah, I see it as potentially a bit like Binance here in the UK. People who already had existing accounts probably okay, but the FCA really did try and clamp down on some of the crypto exchanges because people, a lot of those exchanges did go under, as we know, with FTX and stuff. And then you've got my Forex funds that went under in America, didn't they, last year? And so, the regulators are going to want to come down on them, and it's just a case of degrees of. So they may be allowed to continue to operate, but it will be a very different landscape.
I think, and also if you're and you're actually listening to this as part of a prop firm, so you've passed a challenge, you probably will notice already, and if you don't, I think this will be something that you'll see next year, is they're going to make it much harder for you to get paid out. I've heard all sorts of stories about people having to film their screens, film where they are if they go onto a different server. That disqualifies them from getting their payout. They're literally doing everything they possibly can to not pay you out. So I think
it's probably because there's not enough new people coming in now on the challenge side of things. It's become a saturated market with the amount of firms. So it's the age-old problem, really. It's, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
And on that note, we're going to finish.
His name's Ali Crooks.
His name's Charlie Burton.
Trade safely out there.